Well, thank you. I see hands, and so, yes, sir. There's- I will repeat the question.
Your question resonated with me about the beggar on the street, and it resonated in the sense that, in my mind, there's a dichotomy between charity and philanthropy. Charity, and this is a dichotomy that I've experienced with a number of people over the years. The dichotomy of charity, of just writing a check and issuing support, versus philanthropy of having expectations that you're making an investment which will enable the individual to become self-sufficient, or the organization to become more self-sufficient. And this particular dichotomy, I think, plays itself out in many people's lives in terms of even down to the street level issue of, should I give this guy $1, or should I write a $1,000 check to this organization, not knowing how they're going to use it or whatever. So this is an issue that I've wrestled with professionally and personally.
The gentleman's question, I think, is a good one. If you look at the Bill Gates website, if you just Google Bill Gates and Foundation, you will see that he has started, he's done 3 now, letters, talking about his own philanthropy and he and his wife Melinda's philanthropy. And a big thrust of that is accountability. He wants to have innovative approaches to various things, whether it's wiping polio out or improving American education, et cetera. And I think we hear this innovation, accountability, results-oriented sort of thing more and more from donors. I think personally that there are a lot of questions about that. Is that the right direction that we should be going? And I don't know. Do folks have comments on that? People want to speak to that here?
It is not just a good question; it's the good question. And I don't have the good answer for it, but I can give you some things to think about on it. I was chair of the Coalition for the Homeless for a number of years, and I learned a lot about Louisville and a lot about the communities throughout Louisville and a lot of the people. And the challenge of philanthropic giving is the desire of the organizations to see results from their work. And I understand that. I really do. I don't think it would be responsible for you just to give money without recognizing that there's a limit to what you can give, without a concern that that money be used well, because there are other places that need it. So just giving poorly is not not a benefit when you're talking about a philanthropic gift. Having said that, there are charities, and they are among the most important, where results is not something that you can gauge. And that's the real challenge. I mean, I was chair of the coalition, if you'll pardon me, in the heyday of being homeless, when homeless was chic, okay? When hundreds of thousands of people marched with us to Washington for fair housing, and when there were homeless balls in the community, and everybody wanted to be part of the solving the problem, because it was a problem that had sort of grown up suddenly with the deinstitutionalization of so many people from mental health facilities, and with a generation of veterans who were we're beginning to see again on the streets, who were just probably all of their lives affected by what they've seen and what they've done, and the challenge, I guess, is to recognize that there, particularly in organized charities, there is a very reasonable expectation that the dollars that you're giving are going to the cause that they represent, and that they're doing so in an efficient fashion. And I think that that's important. But it's really wonderful to be able to eradicate polio, because we can really do that, and then you can feel like you did something. But there are people in our society that are always going to need to be cared for. And I don't mean by that because they're lazy, okay? I mean by that because there needs to be a value in society that we care for those who are literally in need of care. And the one that strikes me, just having worked in that scenario, about a quarter to a third of the homeless, are veterans. And they gave everything for us. And we need to take responsibility to care for them. There are people in the homeless community that can be helped, and they need to be. There are mothers who need childcare so they can get an education, so they can be able to to have a stable home. There are people who've been abused. There are people who have had problems with alcohol abuse or drug abuse. These are things that you can help a person with, and you can move them on. And I value those immensely. And those are the causes in that area that that draw the funds still, because you can see results. But there's sometimes when the result is taking care of a human being that needs to be taken care of, and might just need that, and a caring society does that. And I don't want to downplay how important that can be.
Question up in the top. Yes, sir.
Following up on that topic, Rabbi, and for the whole group, we're watching as spectators what's happening in a discussion that's happening in Washington right now. And our government has, in the past, kind of been that moral barometer. And it looks like that may be changing. And the needs of the individuals, the needs of, much as you mentioned, the caring of our good earth, which you referred to, your husband has that moral character. The regulatory agencies, the providers of funds for research, for illness, all of that may be shifting, and the gap may grow larger for things to fall through. What's the faith-based community doing to watch, maybe prepare for that, and even at a local level? How do we offset what MetroGov or corporate support does not provide the community?
I guess I hear two kind of questions in there. One is perhaps really very appropriate for the panel, which is to say the faith-based communities, understandably, are skittish in this country about bringing their faith to lobbying and in certain areas, and indeed even discussions like this that we tend to, if we don't watch, at least those of us who are not faith leaders, tend to hide our faith, and we talk in this civic code. And is that appropriate? Should we do that? What are effective ways that you've seen, whether it's lobbying for programs that we would all think are important, or just having these discussions about philanthropy and community problems, approaching them as the faithful people that we are? Do we have comments on that?
I would suggest that our faith traditions must bring religion to the public square, and one of the roles of that is to bring a conscience to the public square on all these sorts of questions, and to assure that our government leaders, our legislators, hear what the genuine concerns of our people are and where the hearts of our people are. And Lord knows that's going to erupt a lot of debates because we approach that from a lot of different ways. But I'm not sure I agree that faith traditions are skittish, and certainly some of the media doesn't think we're skittish at all. They take pretty easy shots at us whenever we try to address any moral principles in the public square. But the word that comes to my mind is that the faith traditions have to bring a conscience. Not that people that aren't a part of our faith traditions aren't also holders of good and sound conscience, but we have sort of a collective conscience and a collective tradition.
As I understand Scripture, God has outlined certain safety nets for people who cannot provide for themselves. If a person is unable to work, the first responsibility is with their family. Scripture says if a man doesn't provide for his own family, he's worse than an unbeliever. But if the family can't take care of him, then the local church is to be on the lookout for those who are in need. And I think one of the things that we can do as a faith-based community is to be alert to and provide avenues for our people in our community who are in need and are hurting. And I see a lot of churches stepping that up these days. The last safety net should be the government, as I understand Scripture, but we tend to invert that and try to make the government the first safety net, when I think the family and the local church and the local community can do a better job than the government.